Good morning, everyone. Happy Shochu'sday. This is episode number 56. I'm one of your hosts, Christopher Pellegrini. With me, as always, is Stephen Lyman. We are coming to you live from Japan, and it is Wednesday morning here, and probably sometime on Tuesday for many of the people watching. Anyways, again, happy Shochu'sday, Stephen.
Yeah. Good morning. Cheers.
I'm drinking coffee.
As am I.
Okay.
I had a bright idea this morning to use a ceramic shochu cup, mizuwari cup or oiwari cup, big one, for my iced coffee. Okay. And I realized because ceramic has such great heat conducting or cool conducting properties, I chilled the glass like you would chill a regular glass before I poured the hot coffee over the ice, and it kept the ice intact much better. The coffee cooled much quicker. So little life hack.
Is it a sweaty cup though?
It is. But I can live with a sweaty cup. I mean, my glass is, when I make iced coffee in a glass cup,
that's
like in a glass, too, right? It's also sweaty, right? Yeah.
Okay.
The sweat doesn't really bother me.
That's interesting. I wonder if there's. I was just thinking about this the other day because I have a bunch of them. I'm gonna pull one out.
You're thinking of the double-lined ceramics?
Well, I'm thinking of like a a koozie. I have a pint glass koozie. This is made by this is a Switchback, which is a Vermont brewery, and they, you're outside, you have a pint glass, put it in there, and it's not sweaty, and it stays cold a little bit longer. I wonder if there's I don't know, what is there? An oiwari koozie or a morning coffee, iced coffee koozie?
Yeah,
probably not.
Doesn't surprise me that you've got a whole collection of koozies.
I do have a collection. Where the hell did I put them? I have some good ones. Maybe that's it. I just rearrange everything, as you know, and I don't remember where anything is. So maybe in the future we'll go through my koozie collection. I have some weird ones.
I have a koozie episode.
Yeah. Hey, first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
just off to a roaring start here. What's your koozie game like? Okay, well, today is as advertised, the Tokyo Shochu episode, and I think this could be interesting. Maybe before we get into that, though, we do our normal, is there any booze news to start? And if there is, then I guess we can throw that up there now.
I don't know if it's exactly booze news. Well, it's just good news for Shochu is that Alton Brown was drinking Shochu on his live stream. He was making Shochu cocktails while making yakiniku with his wife on a impromptu live stream.
That's awesome.
On YouTube and Instagram.
What was he drinking? What category?
Akutake Shiro rice Shochu.
Oh, okay. Rice Shochu, vacuum distilled rice.
Yeah. So friend of the show, Justin Cobb.
Potts
on the
Cobbs?
Cobb.
Okay,
yeah, Justin Cobb. Yeah, he was in the live stream chat explaining to Alton the difference between sake and shochu. So
okay, sweet.
Evangelization happening. Good stuff.
Love it. Go get him, Justin. Yeah.
I don't know if that's booze news or not, but it's good news for shochu that somebody, celebrity chef like that is drinking shochu on his show.
I wonder where he got a hold of that bottle. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's in
Whether
California.
It was a gift or
right. Good question.
Huh. Very interesting. Yeah. And yeah, thank you, Justin Cobb, for often being in the comments here on the show, and then also for making sure to kind of kick the cobwebs out of any misunderstandings when you see them arise. It's going to be a constant struggle, obviously, for those of you who are familiar with Shochu or whoever have ever tried to explain it to somebody who is not familiar with Shochu, and you're not in Japan when you try to do so. It is a serious challenge, and it's something that requires a lot of repetition. You have to go back again and again and again, review, and then eventually people start to see the light.
Yep. Well, we do have a handy sake versus shochu episode on the podcast, so maybe we need to get that into Mr. Brown's feed.
Into his Spotify rotation, or however people listen to these things. I recently, speaking of Spotify, was trying to sign up for my first ever Spotify account, which I've never done. And I'm not sure if we talked about this, but maybe we did. I was trying to use one of my email addresses and the one that I figured that I would have all of this junk email go to. I figured I was going to get spammed somehow, so I tend to use a couple of my burner email accounts. Everybody has burner email accounts, right? And it turns out it was already used. So I was like, no, it's not. I have never tried to sign up for a Spotify account before. I swear. So I was like, okay, password reset on this thing. I get the thing. And then I from Spotify. So I change the password. I go in. It's like, oh, somebody in this country in South America has been using my password for a while. So now I have a Spotify account. It's a free account, but I've got some interesting. I don't know if this was from a long time ago before they did email verification or what.
Yeah. But yes. You know, I've had a Stevie Lyman in Nebraska who started using my Gmail as his Gmail. I think because I use a dot, right, and in between parts of my name, and Gmail doesn't recognize that dot. That dot is just for ease of reading for people who are using the email address. So apparently I actually own my name at gmail.com. But Stevie Lyman,
unlike on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Stevie Lyman, who apparently doesn't realize the dot doesn't matter, has been signing up for everything with Stephen Lyman at gmail.com for
what a little
years.
Sweetheart.
But what he's doing it as a legitimate account. So like I keep getting notifications to verify the email address for his Instagram, or to verify my income for an auto loan, or to confirm that I have a reservation at this certain restaurant on Thursday evening at 7 p.m.
You should mess with him. You should mess with him. Cancel that reservation. Send in. I mean, obviously they're going to have extra information about him for you could, man.
Yeah.
At some point, I bet if you followed up on enough of these small leads, you've got an identity theft situation right there. You know,
I have no interest in stealing Stevie Lyman in Nebraska's identity.
Stevie Lyman in Nebraska, you devil. Yeah. Well, that I'm sure a lot of people have a similar. I'm lucky just because my only thing was somebody used it mistakenly for a Spotify account, but. Yeah, the accounts that get spammed all the time, I just don't use for normal things.
Sure. So I have a burner for that as well, but it just happens to be somebody who's using my account as his.
That's so annoying.
Must be so frustrating for him. He's like, Gmail doesn't work at all.
Yeah, right. I bet he does tell everybody who will listen that he hates Gmail. It's because he can't.
It did finally stop. So, maybe he just was like, all right, I'm going to go to some other service. He's probably back to Hotmail or something.
Oh, Hotmail. Or now it's Outlook. When you search for Hotmail now, it doesn't even exist anymore. It takes you to Outlook, which is I find to be quite funny. Anyways,
sure.
So that was the booze news. Is there anything else?
Well, it's personal news is that I finally changed my Twitter handle, as I've talked about for quite some time.
It's official?
It is. So, well,
damn.
I mean, the poll is still open on Twitter. If you really hate the new name and you want me to go back to the old one or try to find something else, you can go and vote.
What's winning?
Right now, Lyman Tweets. It's at Lyman Tweets is winning.
At Lyman Tweets is the new.
Handily. I have 4 options on the list, and Lyman Tweets is in the lead by over 50%. So
okay.
I think the new handle's going to stick.
Lyman Tweets. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that's probably what it's going to be moving forward. So then you just need to convince your existing. What are you going to do with the Shochu Danji account?
Well, no, I just changed the name of that account. It's the same account. You just keep it.
You can change the handle too.
Yeah, you have. It's pretty deep in the settings to do that, but I was able to. I
didn't realize you could do that. Okay, so you just have ready to go. Oh, well, that's no harm, no foul then.
Yeah, so it wasn't like creating a new Twitter account and trying to build a following again. That would be painful.
That's what I thought was going to end up happening. I was like, yeah, you can probably convince half of your crowd to switch over, but it's an uphill battle after that.
I've been building this following for 10 years on Twitter. I'm not going to start from scratch.
That's why I was confused why you started talking about it at all. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's ambitious. All right, I understand now. It makes perfect sense.
Same thing on Instagram, but I can't be stupid to be Lyman Tweets on Instagram. So
I didn't think you were going to go in that direction.
No, so I gotta work on the new Instagram handle. But I think I'm letting the Shochu Danji go just because nobody knows what the hell the Danji is, and I'm tired of explaining it. But
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess that qualifies as news of some sort.
That is news. So let's move on to the main event, I guess, and that is the Tokyo Shochu, which I'll just give a brief background on. The Izu Islands south of Tokyo is actually home to some pretty old shochu distilleries, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is obviously not where anybody thinks about shochu. If you know even the slightest thing about Honkaku Shochu, you don't think about the Izu Islands as a place.
It's also not where you would think of as Tokyo. Right?
Very true. I mean, it is. Yeah. It's pretty far flung. It's this string of islands that. Well, how do you get there? The Izu Oshima. It's another Oshima. There's a lot of Oshimas, right? Which means big island. Is the first major stop. It's the first stop if you get on the overnight ferry, which I think it takes 5 or 6 hours overnight on this big ferry that has places to sleep. That's the first stop. So you can kind of get a partial idea of the distance. Oshima to the port, which is basically not too far from Shinagawa, and that's probably a name that's a part of Tokyo that some people are familiar with. And then after that, you've got islands like Niijima, which is where I go in the summer to go camping. It's a very popular surf spot. It's a much smaller island than Oshima. Then there's Shikine-jima, which is famous for spearfishing and a lot of other nature. You can go camping there as well. Not a whole lot else to do, but a beautiful island. Then there's going further south, the next big place, and you'd probably want to take a plane to get there, is Hachijojima, which is a lovely destination, I would say. It's a little bit more modern than Niijima and Shikine-jima. And then all the way out there before you kind of run into pure ocean is Aogashima, which has less than 200 people population, but happens to have a shochu distillery on it. And then if you really go way the hell out there, then you're into the Ogasawara Islands, where they make some interesting liqueurs and rums. But there's 7 main populated islands in this chain, and there's 9 distilleries. And so it's not something trendy, new. It's not a fad. They've been making shochu on these islands for a long time, and the reason why is because a lot of people from Kagoshima were exiled there back in the day. The really bad ones they tried to get them as far away as possible, and Hachijojima is pretty damn far away from Kagoshima, much further away than Amami, right, or Oshima. So some of that know-how traveled, in other words. And these traditions began hundreds of years ago. So it's a pretty interesting little place to dig in. And yeah, I don't know. What's your impression of this stuff? The Tokyo Island Shochu.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I've never been able to visit the islands, and I really look forward to life opening up again and perhaps being able to join you on a camping trip in the future. But my first exposure to it was actually a bottle of Aochu. It was given to me by Aya of Shochu and Tapas Aya in New York City, former bartender at Hachan Bar. And she just handed it to me and said, "Try this. I think you'll like it." And when I tried it, I had no idea what I was drinking. I was like, "Wait, how is this? How is this shochu?"
Yeah.
It was acidic, and it was higher proof, right? I think that's usually bottled around 30%.
They have a 35. They have a bunch of different expressions.
Yep.
But
yeah, I'm not sure which one it was. This was years ago, and then she explained to me, "Oh yeah, this is made in Tokyo." I was like, "Really?
Huh?"
You'd think something from Tokyo would be more refined than this. And she's like, no, the island's way out off the coast,
Yeah, fair
it's
enough.
still technically part of Tokyo. And it's an acquired taste, but it's a really pretty highly sought after shochu. It's hard to find. They don't make a lot of it, right? And they have if you can hold up one of the bottles, they have this signature bottle shape, this like squared off bottle.
Yeah,
and whenever you see one of these, you're almost certain that it's going to be one of these Tokyo Island shochu. Although there are a few sake that use a similar shaped bottle, you'll occasionally see.
Mm-hmm.
But every single one of these I've had has a very rustic, wild expression. I've never tasted one that I'm like, oh, this is a really, balanced, round, smooth, easy drinking shochu. Those words would never come out of my mouth when I drink one of these. Now, maybe they exist.
Might surprise you today, then, actually.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah, this one is not the funkiest of the batch, the funkiest of the bunch. Pardon the Mark Wahlberg connection there.
No worries. All right, well, exciting.
But that's... just to riff off of what you were saying, you're talking about Aogashima, which is that really where they make aochu. It's basically one distillery with like 10 toji that kind of take shifts and create their own expressions. You got less than 200 people on the island, and 10 of them are toji, which is hilarious. But that's probably a separate episode, because aochu is a special thing. Wild yeast, wild koji. Basically, it's a single fermentation. The whole thing goes in there, and it's like a witch's brew type of thing. I'm probably going to regret saying that. But it's very interesting stuff. And what I sent you, and this is another one of those things where we send each other samples. This time wasn't blind, everybody out there. I actually did tell them what it was. But we're going to try, I already showed it, but this yaetsubaki, which is one of the main expressions by Hachijojima Shuzo. Yeah, I sent the little 2-ouncer.
And it says barley × 2
It's weird because this is... So what is this? This is basically a blended shochu. It's technically a barley shochu. Barley koji barley. But then just for a little bit of extra... And the barley it's a vacuum distilled barley. But then just for a little bit of extra body and a little bit of extra depth, they blended it with an atmospheric distilled barley koji sweet potato shochu. So there's a lot of barley koji in here, and there's a little bit of sweet potato as well, but it is technically a barley shochu. And I think what you're going to find is that when you nose it, it's definitely going to present as more of a barley shochu, but then it's interesting because after it goes down the hatch afterwards, it kind of goes like, oh, there's a sweet potato, it was hiding. And it adds this kind of complexity to it, which is, I kind of like it. And it's not quite as funky as some of the stuff that you've tasted from there.
Sure. Well, the vacuum is going to play a big role in that. But I now that you've explained it to me, I kind of wish I was tasting it blind.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And for me it would have been humiliating or embarrassing in some way to not have any idea what I was drinking. But it sounds like this is going to be a shochu expression that is unlike anything I've ever had before.
Sure. It is. It is different.
There we go. Basically water white, clear. Yeah, it's definitely got barley on the nose.
And barley and sweet potato are basically the name of the game of the Izu Islands in terms of their shochu. Pretty much everything has one or both in the mix. One or both of those ingredients.
And I guess that's the thing that you said earlier, that this is a blend, right? You've got the barley, but then you've got the barley sweet potato. And it's extremely uncommon to see barley as the koji for a sweet potato shochu outside these islands. Yeah.
It really is. It is different, but those are the staple crops there. Barley is grown there. Sweet potatoes are grown there, so it just made more sense. These are until steady airplane connections, flights. It just wasn't really all that easy to get to Hachijojima, so they were really self-reliant. Yeah, they had to be, and I mean the fact that they were exiling people to those islands shows you it was neither easy to get there nor to get off. And it's a fascinating area with some great history, some amazing flora and fauna. Definitely worth a trip if you have the time. If you're going to be, you're coming to Tokyo in the future, and if you've already done the Kyoto Osaka triangle, you're there again and you don't have enough time to go down to Kyushu, which is where you really need to go, or Okinawa, which is where you also really need to go, then take a day trip to maybe not a day trip, maybe take an overnight to Hachijojima and experience some of what that island has to offer. It's Tokyo, but it's definitely not.
So it's funny, I haven't tried it yet, but on the nose, it's definitely barley, but it's barley plus.
Mm-hmm.
But identifying the plus is like impossible. It doesn't have what I would consider a sweet potato aroma at all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
It's got a little bit of the signature funk that I associate with the Tokyo Island shochus, though. Just on the nose, it's very light compared to some of the others that are just a punch in the face.
It's not your typical vacuum distilled barley. That's for damn sure.
It almost has hints of shirayuri on the nose.
I see. I can, now that you say it.
Yeah, that's an awamori that Christopher adores. And the only episode that we ever lost of our stream was our shirayuri episode, so we're gonna have to revisit that at some point.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, the Shochu'sday episode was maybe the final one that we did when Shochu'sday was still hosted on my Instagram, and that one didn't make it through the Instagram ecosystem to archivalhood.
Yeah.
Is that the correct noun? It didn't make it to the archive, so it just disappeared into the ether.
Yeah.
It's somewhere out there, I'm sure, on some drive somewhere in the cloud, but it is not on my Instagram.
So you're saying it's barley koji and then they add barley, so it's not 100% barley koji fermentation.
I don't believe it is at Hachijojima. They do a 2-step fermentation, and I don't have any reason to believe that this was a single all in.
Okay.
The single step fermentation is far more common down to the south on Aogashima.
Now, yeah, the sweet potatoes on the finish, isn't it? And how do people on the islands drink this normally?
Much the way that we drink any other shochu. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of rocks. There's some bubbles, a lot of mizuwari and then some oyuwari as well. It's kind of a similar, the same patterns, the same shapes, but the food there tends to be a lot more robust. So they value these much earthier, funkier expressions. They definitely bring the funk down there, which is a great reason to go there for culinary experiences. If they need spirits that have this amount of depth and character, you can only imagine what the food's like.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You know, it has a lot of graininess, a lot of almost raw grain, straw sort of things going on. But then there is almost like a buttered honeyed caramel.
There's a nice sweetness at the end.
Yeah, there is.
It's fun.
Yeah,
There's a lot of really interesting stuff down there. I have a small bottle of Shimajiman, which is it is the main brand anyway of Miyahara Shuzo on Niijima, which is where I go every year, and it's it's more, this one's 100% mugi, but they also they flirt with imo. They do a little bit of cask aging. Really interesting small distilleries that they're doing their thing down there. They don't really have much of a local population to drink it, so they tend to ship it to Tokyo proper. But then, even though they're shipping a lot of volume, when it arrives in Tokyo, it's really not that much volume at all. It's really small production quantities. So there tend to be very specific locations where you can pick these bottles up. One of them being Shochu Authority in Shiodome, which is one of the best places to shop for shochu in the world, honestly, just because of the sheer volume of product that they have. And another place is at the actual port. where you would board the ferry or board the jet foil to go down south to the islands. And they have, of course, what would amount to a gift shop. But they also have a really good selection of Tokyo island shochu at very reasonable prices, much cheaper, only just barely more expensive than what you would pay on the islands themselves. And yeah, it's a fun group of distilleries to support. They just don't get a lot of traffic down there, and they're always looking for an angle to get more eyeballs and try to get more people they're trying to get people to mix these things, to find interesting ways to convert them into more approachable vehicles, cocktails, that sort of thing for a wider audience. And they, to this point, haven't had a whole lot of luck. But, they, at one point I was approached to help with how to get more people to Aogashima. I'm like, you're not going to get a lot of international tourists down there. They have to first go to Hachijojima, then they have to get on a rickety-ass boat or in a helicopter to go to Aogashima. And that stuff is, depending on the wind down there and the waves just cancels everything all the time. And then they could get stranded there. It's not an easy sell, folks. And then there's like a place to stay and a place to eat once they get there. And you're trying to talk about, and plus they bottle a lot of stuff at hanatare levels. Come down here and enjoy the local spirit. They're going to be on their faces on a volcanic island with no way to escape. So you're asking them to exile themselves, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
So I don't know if that's a huge... There's certainly a subsection of international tourists that would dig the hell out of that. Yeah, but I don't know if you want to spend a lot of marketing dollars on it.
Well, I think when Japan Distilled Tours begins at some point, and it hasn't even been considered future, maybe we'll have a Tokyo tour that will not be what people expect. Like, oh, cool, we're going to Tokyo. Oh, wait, why are we getting on this ferry?
Yeah, right.
Really, we're staying here.
Southern Island tour. We're gonna hit every distillery along the way, but it's gonna take a day and a bit of travel in between. Except for if we go all the way to Ogasawara, the Ogasawara Islands, those are way the hell out there. I mean, we're talking. I think on a ferry it would take 2 days, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Now, are those
way out there?
Are those part of Tokyo or are they part of Okinawa?
They're part of Tokyo.
Okay,
but they're worlds.
They're almost closer to Okinawa. Those islands.
They're almost closer to Boston. They are way the hell out there. And so it takes a while to get there. It's a beautiful. It's a naturescape. It's a wildlife preserve, essentially, in the form of a couple of islands, and it's a diving mecca.
Ogasawara?
The Ogasawara Islands, that's right.
Yeah,
so that's on my bucket list. I have not been all the way out there.
Not? Okay.
No.
Can you fly there? No.
You can. Yes.
Yeah.
You can.
Okay.
It's obviously not a flight. It's ludicrously expensive if you don't live on the islands.
Sure.
And it's an investment of time. I was half tempted to beach myself there during part of the pandemic, seeing as it's technically Tokyo, so I'm not really breaking any rules. But they were also I would be breaking some rules. So yeah, so I ceased and desisted. But anyways, yeah, the island shochu, the Tokyo island shochu, not on most people's map. And when you talk about Honkaku Shochu, this rarely comes up, these brands. But there are 9 distilleries on the 7 inhabited islands, and it's not like they're making some other drink and then they just make shochu on the side. These are primarily they're shochu distilleries, and they're not really all that new. They've been doing this for a long time, and there's some there's actually a couple of well-respected brands, well-known brands from down there. One of them being, for instance, Taniguchi on Oshima makes, and I'm going to forget it. You know, it's in my damn book. And I'm going to forget the name of it. But I haven't thought about it in so long. Oh, wouldn't you know it? I don't have a copy of my book. All right, well, never mind. Anyways, there's a made by Taniguchi. Thank you. It's
let me see. It's in the. How do you organize your shochu recommendations?
Like chapter 9 or chapter 10. It shows you how recently I've looked at the damn thing. Are you serious? How do I not have one of these lying around? Okay, I found one. So I just knocked over 6 stacks of
Shimajiman
business cards. Shimajiman is the one that I just mentioned. No, it's actually
another one.
Page. I think it's on. Is it on page 100? Try page 100.
Page 100. We've got
Gojinka Imo.
Kuro Isaneshiki.
You've got the old version of the book. Sorry, this is the updated version. In the updated version of the book,
where's that?
Page 100, Gojinka Imo, which is a barley koji, of course. Sweet potato shochu. It looks like that, and it's
to show you what a big fan I am of Christopher's book. I have both editions. So the fatter one is the new one.
I don't even have both editions. Man, I knocked over so many friggin' business cards. That's gonna take a year to reorganize. Crap.
Actually, you've only signed the newer edition. I'm sure I've got a signed old edition somewhere. But
sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Anyways, page 100. If you want to,
Gojinka Imo
edition. Gojinka. Yep. That's quite good. I like that one.
I've seen that bottle before.
That one I would dare say is semi well known outside of Tokyo.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for that next time I'm around. I'm actually really curious about this the great shochu shop at the port. How hard is that to get to from, like, let's say Shinagawa to the port?
You would Shinagawa I just said that because that's the largest station down that area. You would actually want to go to this is how infrequently I go downtown these days. I'm forgetting the names of train stations. Where's the damn port? It's like it's not hard. Let me just say that. Okay. There's the monorail in Tokyo. It actually stops right next door to the port. Okay. So, and then you would get out. Obviously, it's a big, wide, open space, but it's probably from that station. If you decide to use the monorail, then it's a 5-minute walk until you weave your way in there and find the shop. Mm-hmm. And then you can also go. Why am I forgetting the name of the major JR station? The Yamanote line. What's the name of the station that's closest? It's not coming to me. But then from there, you can also walk. It's probably more like a 20-minute walk, but it's really not that bad. Okay. So
actually, the monorail goes directly to Haneda. So as you were leaving Tokyo, if you can't get down to the islands, as you're leaving Tokyo to fly back to
make a pit
your
stop.
Home country. Oh no, sorry, that's Haneda. That's usually a domestic flight, not international. So it's Good not point. Quite as convenient as I thought. Anyway, take the monorail, or just go to Shochu Authority. But
Shochu Authority does have a lot of the bigger hits from the island, so that would be probably your easier bet. Although negotiating Shiodome can be a pain in the ass too if you're not familiar with it.
Well, that's definitely
that underground warren. It's like, how do I find anything down here? You really have to have your bearings. But okay, let's. Where are we? This has been a wild rant. This has been a fun one so far because I haven't even been paying attention to the comments really. But how about this thing? If we go to newly open, do you have anything newly open?
You know, I've been trying to kill a lot of bottles just to clear space recently.
Kill.
And I think I've got a I did. It's not exactly newly open, but I've been enjoying this recently. I did show this on an earlier show. I had set it aside for a while. This is Yume Kokai, and this might look really weird to a lot of people because it's shochu in a milk carton, essentially. Yep. But it's a way that packaging is.
Really, but yeah,
this is awamori, yeah. So, but it's fun, right? To be able to just use the entire service, and it says, "Let's sail towards our dreams," right?
It's inviting you to drink quite a bit.
Yeah. But this is a 30%. It actually says it very helpfully, 30% alcohol. 1.8 liters. So this is like an Isho bean sized carton of awamori. Now, this brand used to be extremely popular from Chuko Distillery, and it fell out of favor. And they completely reformulated over the last few years. And now this has become like greenapple.com in how it expresses. It's a really, really bright, refreshing awamori. And it's great with soda. Mizuwari, really, really nice drink. Probably wouldn't play that well Oyuwari, but
yeah, I haven't tried it. I will try it if I get my hands on it.
This is available at my local liquor shop, so not a bad drink to be able to pick up a carton. And the nice thing about the carton is if you drop it, you're very unlikely to break it, and it's also lighter to carry. So, and then husbands like it because their wives can't see how much they've had to drink.
Yeah, unless they pick it up.
Yep. Well,
do the weight test. But yeah, I wonder what people think overseas when you think of the concept of buying alcohol in a carton.
Yeah.
What are those? Or even like those sippy boxes? Because that sometimes happens too. You find it. I wonder what people. How they would react to that. Would you buy that in America if you're in the States and you're in a liquor store, and maybe not Shochu or awamori, but let's pick something more familiar. What if it's a gin, or what if it's a bourbon that's in a carton? Would you buy it?
Right.
I wonder.
I mean, you have box wine, right?
Box wine is I mean that's true. It took a while for people to come around to that, but now people don't completely scoff at the idea.
Yeah, well, I think they like the volume, right? It's good. It's good for parties.
Sure.
A couple of liters of wine.
And it's in a bag in a box, so it's actually bag wine.
Right.
And I mean, and actually Maya just made a comment that's similar. Anything better than the refillable 1 liter shampoo pouch, which is basically the bagged spirits or bagged wine. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and those actually exist, and I think they're often used to refill the glass bottle and again save weight. It's just like the refillable shampoo pouch, right?
It is, right.
So yeah, get your alcohol in as efficient packaging as you can. And it took me a long time to come around to cartons, and I'm still not a huge fan. But I will, especially when traveling, if I'm going to pick up something to sip on in my hotel room and they've got a decent shochu in a box, I'll often buy that over the bottle, because especially if I'm transiting between hotels or I'm carrying it back home with me, it's going to be
so much lighter.
It's lighter and it's less likely to break. So I go with the cartons. And if you think about it because I've had Isho bean break in my suitcase on my flight home.
Yeah.
Right. And that becomes a smelly mess. And you've got alcohol just dripping out of your suitcase as you're trying to go through customs. So you're automatically going to get flagged. And, that's the only time I ever was stopped and asked to open my suitcase, was the time that I had 2 Isho bean break. And they're
like, this guy smells like that rubber mat on the bar at the end of service.
Exactly. So I went into fortunately they had a restroom at the baggage carousel, and it must have just broken as it was coming off the plane. Right. It was definitely the American Airlines baggage handlers.
Oh, they kicked it in
Dallas,
the tarmac.
Just
bastards.
Thrown it.
Yep.
And so I took it into the bathroom, I pull it out, and 2 Isho bean had broken. They were both bubble wrapped, but they had just smashed together at the wrong angle and penetrated the bubble wrap. One was 10-year-old Mushagaishi.
Shit.
Ooh. The black label, which is almost impossible to find. And the other was a seasonal release. I think, is it Jikushi from Hachijojima? Is that the name of the brand? The green and orange label. What's that brand called?
The green. Yeah, you're right. Jikushi. Maya will chime in the comments in a second if she's paying attention.
Yeah, so I lost an Isho bean of a seasonal Hachijojima and an Isho bean of the 10-year-old Mushagaishi. So you have this really, really funky, deep, rich rice shochu, and this really bright, fruity expression of a sweet potato, and 3.6 liters of it ends up in my clothes. Right? So I throw away the packaging in the garbage can in the bathroom. I go through customs, and of course I have to claim that I had alcohol in my bag, but less than I thought I did. And when she opens up my suitcase, and she kind of puts her head back like, the smell, and she goes, is this like, what is this? I said, she's like, is this like sake? I was like, yeah, basically it's Japanese alcohol. And she said, well, looks like you're having a worse day than me. Have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, that's a secret for getting through customs quickly is when you say it's shochu and they say, oh, is that like sake? You just say, sure. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then they're not interested in that. They can't get any money from that. So they're like, yeah, get out of here. Bring you and your intact and not intact bottles, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. So that's the only time I've had a bottle break, but it was definitely scarring enough that I actually would recommend, especially if you want a volume play, just pack a bunch of these in your suitcase and you're much less likely to have any damage, any loss.
That's a really good call. If you're taking our lead and you start home aging in some sort of amphora, and this is especially a good idea with awamori, but it's certainly a possibility with shochu too. Yeah, why not? If you need refills or if you're going to actually do the Solera method where you're scooping out and pouring for the night's revelry, and then you need to refill, why not use one of these cartons? Because it's not for show, it's not for display, it's just for efficiency.
Yeah, Chuko does sell their standard release 30%. I don't know if they sell the 43% in the carton.
They have a couple of different ones. Yeah,
they do. But I've seen their 3-year in Ishobin, so the 3-year aged Chuko awamori in glass Ishobin, but not in cartons. Because you do it just makes your shitsugi, your secondary aging, a little bit more rapid if you're not starting with essentially new make, right? If it's got a little age on it already, you'll get there faster.
Right.
But yeah, I like that idea. If you're gonna do some awamori home aging, back in your home country, then find some, if they've got the genshu, the undiluted awamori in cartons, that's a really safe way to get it home, and then you can keep refilling. Just keep the cartons in the closet. Nobody has to see them. It can be your little secret.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, you don't have to. You're not expected to show off the fact that you have booze in milk cartons.
You'll notice
not gonna win you a ton of friends usually, but
this one's not on the counter behind me. It's actually down at the floor by my feet.
All those other boxes are ensconcing bottles. So
because I could kick this one and it's not going to break, right?
Yeah,
it can stay down by my feet.
I no longer have bottles near my feet, which is kind of a weird sensation after the remodel.
Room must feel so much bigger.
It is huge. It's gigantic. Like I trip sometimes having so much space. I expect to hit something, and then I get this phantom claustrophobia kicking in. But it's and then it dissipates, and then I'm like, oh well, I guess I should work on a bottle kill. Bottle kill. That is the hashtag for today. I think we've been. I actually haven't posted a bottle kill, but I think that's something that we want to encourage with shochu and awamori. Definitely enjoy it.
Yeah.
Try not to stockpile too much of it, and then post your bottle kills with the hashtag.
Try not to stockpile too much of it, says the man with about 700 bottles in his apartment.
I haven't bought a single bottle of hooch in close to like 2 calendar days.
I thought you were going to say 2 weeks.
I was about to, and I was like, no, that's a complete lie. Nobody's going to believe it. And I can't say it with a straight face. So, I'm working on a bottle kill. I didn't talk about my newly opened, but
what was it?
Have a bunch of stuff, actually, that I've just been... Here's one. So this is... I noticed that I had this bottle of... It's the Murasaki Imo. It's a purple sweet potato made with a wine yeast, as it says up here. A red wine yeast fermentation. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And this is made by Tsumi in Kumamoto. This is another rather large distillery that we were racking our brains for this. Yeah. And, you don't think of sweet potato when you're talking Kumamoto. So I was like, okay, I got a bottle of it. Let's crack it. It's interesting. I don't hate it. I It's really red, and I really need to. It's almost like you can smell. Can you smell tannins? Because it feels like that. This really is screaming for bubbles. That's how I need to drink it next. So I'm going to try that. Yeah.
Yeah, the purple and red potatoes. I'm glad I cracked
it because it was just wasting away in a back closet. Like, that needs some love.
Yeah, that's I mean, the red and purple sweet potatoes definitely play well with bubbles. Those shochu, for sure.
Wow.
Interesting.
So maybe today I'll try it with some bubbles.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, actually, I legitimately I don't think I bought any hooch in 2 weeks. I've been good.
Did you get yelled at?
No. I've just been running through things that I already had, yeah, I just felt like I was the bottles were starting to pile up on the floor, and I said, I really don't want to become Christopher. So
That's generally a good path to take in life. Don't become like me. Just avoid, and you'll do well for yourself. But yeah, also kicking bottles when you're, trying to do other things is not pleasant. And then also when you're on a Zoom meeting or something, and then all people can hear is clink, clink, clang, clang, and the whole thing. What the hell is he taking this call from a recycling center? It's not cool. You're not going to get that promotion.
I mean, I think we kept the blooper in one of the podcast episodes recently, right? Where you knocked over a bottle in the middle of the.
Which episode was that? Was that the?
Is that sweet potato?
It might have been sweet potato.
Might have been, the most recent one, I think. I've had 2 crates, like the actual green, like the plastic crates of isho beans sitting under this standing desk for, like, basically since I moved in, and I was like, all right, I got to clear that out. Like, those crates don't need to be there. I actually borrowed them from New York wine traders here in Fukuoka, and I've never returned them. I was like, I really should give those crates back. So
that's a different level too. You actually have trade crates. So these are the distributor crates for those huge bottles. I don't have any of those. I'm kind of jealous now. I'd use one as a stool, or I'd make a little izakaya table and chairs out of them.
Yeah, right. So I've emptied one of those crates, and now I've got partway through the other crate.
Show us one so that people know what you're talking about.
Can I get this?
Look at this massive thing. This is at his feet. Whoa! Apparently he had his entire thing stacked on top of it. Earthquake.
No, they're actually wider than the gap. You know what I'll do? I'll have it on. All right, give me a second.
Okay, don't hurt or break in. Oh, jeez. You're being robbed. Holy crap. All right, there it is.
So 6 of the bottles fit in here.
Yep.
And yeah. Well, good. I got one of them. That's the empty one.
Love it. Yeah, give that back to New York wine.
The other one still has 4 bottles in it, so I still have some left
to do. Yeah, you can keep that one. That's funny. Those things are just like pallets. They are traded amongst the different. Everybody just uses them. Sometimes they're branded, and people have the wrong brand in their shop, but nobody cares. Yeah. It's just how these things work. So cool. Very very fun random episode. And I think speaking of podcasts, the next one that's dropping is the Kokuto Shochu podcast. Is that right? That's right. So next week, that's our theme for next week. We're going to be talking Kokuto Shochu again, which is good because I've got a few new bottles to talk about, so I'm excited about that.
Cool.
And I like this whole practice of declaring what the next episode is going to be about on this episode. The only thing is I'll forget in 2 days, so I'm going to write it down. Episode 57 equals Kokuto Shochu.
Yeah. Maybe we'll sign off with this nice compliment from Chris Caldwell, complimenting you on your Koji-Con t-shirt, wondering if we're going to get Japan distilled t-shirts by Christmas. So it is a nice logo that we've got. I guess we could come up with something.
That's interesting. Wow. So people would actually purchase and wear those, huh? I never. That would be incredibly flattering. I never thought about that. I had cut myself off from t-shirt purchases, and I had warned my family off of t-shirt packages containing t-shirts because I just had too many t-shirts. But I guess I would definitely hold on to a Japan distilled t-shirt.
There used to be like fulfillment sites where you could basically upload graphics and then
they they still exist. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we could do t-shirt. We could do. I've always thought our logo would make a good coaster.
Certainly.
Probably have it on a baseball cap.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Glassware, obviously.
Oh, no! I just rid myself of so many of these things. Let's not re-up. How about let's start with a T-shirt.
Isn't it good branding if we've got bright red Japan distilled coffee mugs for our morning coffee on the show? I mean, that just seems like a no-brainer.
You bastard. Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's get them. That actually makes a lot of sense. That's the smartest thing you've said today. And that's not bad. It's only 10:51, but it is 10:51, and we both have things to do and places to go and people to meet virtually. Right. So, and I need more
Thank you
coffee.
For that suggestion.
Yeah, great call, Chris. And yeah, Maya's now saying Shochu glasses, Maya Kake, make all the goods. Oh, for shit's sake.
That's the second time you've sworn on this episode.
I know. I don't swear on these things, but it's been a really wild, emotional ride, this particular episode. Okay, so anyways, everybody, thank you so much, everybody out there, for joining us, the comments, everything, the camaraderie, and in the future, this red cup, which is celebrating the wrong holiday, Christmas in June, will likely be a Japan distilled mug. Maybe some of you can get one too. From both Stephen and I here in Japan to all of you out there, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.
Kanpai. I keep missing the camera.